Have you ever had one of those mornings where you look in the mirror and think, where did the time go? You still feel young inside, but your joints creak a little louder, your energy dips a little faster, and suddenly, your doctor starts using phrases like age-appropriate decline. It can feel like the world expects you to just settle into slowing down, but I'm here to tell you, that's not your only option. Because here's the truth, getting older doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean giving in. And it certainly doesn't mean sitting around and waiting for life to happen to you. In fact, there are people well into their 80s and 90s who are thriving, waking up energized, staying mentally sharp, walking with confidence, and still enjoying the simple pleasures of life every single day. How do they do it? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. This video is all about 5 simple, senior-proven habits that can help you live longer, feel stronger, and enjoy more of the good years ahead. These aren't fads, or gimmicks, or unrealistic routines that require a personal chef and a private gym. These are real-life strategies, rooted in science and backed by people just like you who've made it to 90 and beyond without losing their spark. Let's start with one of the most overlooked but powerful habits, moving your body, intentionally and joyfully. Now, I'm not talking about running marathons or lifting weights like a 30-year-old. I mean simple, daily movement that keeps your body flexible, your heart strong, and your balance steady. Think about this, when you stop moving, your body forgets how to move. The joints stiffen, the muscles weaken, and suddenly, everyday tasks like climbing stairs or carrying groceries feel harder than they should. But when you move, even just a little, your body remembers. And it rewards you. I once knew a woman named Carol who took up gentle stretching at 68. She started small, just 10 minutes in the morning, following a chair yoga video on her tablet. A year later, not only had her back pain eased, but she was sleeping better, standing taller, and even started gardening again, something she hadn't done in nearly a decade. She didn't do anything extreme, she just moved with intention, every day. Whether it's walking around the block, doing Tai Chi in the park, or dancing in your living room to your favorite 60s song, the key is consistency. Your body thrives on movement. It's how it was designed. The best part? Even 5 to 10 minutes a day can make a difference. That's all it takes to start sending the signal, I'm still here. I'm still going. Now let's talk about another essential, but often ignored longevity rule, eating for energy, not just fullness. As we age, our metabolism slows down, and our appetite might change, but that doesn't mean we stop needing quality fuel. In fact, the older we get, the more important nutrition becomes, not just for weight, but for everything from memory to mood to immune strength. Have you ever eaten a big meal, only to feel sluggish or foggy afterward? That's not just age. It's your body reacting to food that doesn't support your best function. On the other hand, when you eat foods that are rich in nutrients, like leafy greens, berries, nuts, fish, and whole grains, you're feeding your cells what they need to repair, renew, and protect you from disease. And don't worry, I'm not saying you need to give up everything you love. Life's too short not to enjoy a slice of pie now and then. But shifting your focus toward foods that energize rather than weigh you down can be a game changer. A good friend of mine, George, made this shift at 72. He didn't go on a fancy diet. He just swapped his afternoon cookies for a handful of almonds and a few pieces of dark chocolate. He replaced his white bread with whole grain, started adding a little spinach to his morning eggs, and added salmon once a week to his dinners. Within months, he told me he felt less bloated, more focused, and even started walking further without needing to catch his breath. Simple changes, but powerful results. Food is medicine. Or, as George likes to say now, my grocery list is my prescription. And he's not wrong. The things we eat every day are either helping us heal or slowly wearing us down. Now that we've touched on movement and mindful eating, let me ask you something a little deeper. When was the last time you truly felt connected to someone, not just in passing, but in a meaningful way? Because here's the third longevity rule many people don't talk about: relationships matter. A lot more than you might think. We humans are social creatures. And while solitude can be peaceful, isolation, especially in our later years, can quietly chip away at our health. Studies have shown that people with strong social connections live longer, recover faster from illness, and even have sharper memories. That doesn't mean you need 100 friends, or to be out socializing every day. But it does mean reaching out, staying in touch, and finding your circle, whether that's a neighbor, a sibling, a faith group, or even an online community. One man I spoke with, Luis, found his tribe through a community woodworking club. He started going once a week just to get out of the house, and ended up finding lifelong friends who not only gave him joy, but a sense of purpose. He said it best, "I went there to pass the time. I stayed because I felt alive again." So if there's someone you've been meaning to call, do it today. If you've been thinking of joining a walking group or taking that painting class, don't wait. Connection isn't just good for the heart, it actually protects it. And that brings us to an important shift in mindset. Longevity isn't just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years. It's about waking up each morning with something to look forward to, even if it's small. It's about choosing activity over apathy, presence over passivity, and growth over giving up. You don't have to change everything overnight. But the moment you decide to take care of yourself, to move, to nourish, to connect, is the moment your future starts to brighten. Now that we've talked about the power of daily movement, smart nutrition, and meaningful connection, let's keep this momentum going. Because when you feel that spark coming back, when you're moving with more ease, eating with more intention, and reconnecting with people who lift your spirit, it's like your body starts to remember what it feels like to truly live again. Now let's talk about a fourth piece of this longevity puzzle, one that's often invisible but incredibly powerful. It lives between your ears. I'm talking about your mind. More specifically, keeping your brain sharp, curious, and active. Because longevity isn't just about staying physically healthy. It's also about protecting your mental clarity, your memory, and your ability to think, learn, and enjoy life fully. It's a strange thing. People will spend hours on puzzles and crosswords when they're younger, but then as they age, they stop challenging themselves mentally. They assume slowing down is just part of the process. But the brain, much like your muscles, thrives on use. When you stop using it, it gets lazy. But when you keep it stimulated, when you ask it to stretch and grow, it responds. Sometimes in amazing ways. I knew a man named Richard who, after retiring from his job as an accountant, started learning Italian. He didn't have a trip planned. He just wanted to challenge himself. Every morning, he'd spend 20 minutes practicing new phrases, listening to music, or reading simple books in Italian. After 6 months, not only could he hold a basic conversation, but he said his focus had improved, his memory was sharper, and he even felt more confident when chatting with his grandkids. He didn't go back to school. He didn't take a course. He just decided his brain deserved the same attention as his body. And your brain does too. You don't have to learn a new language, unless you want to, but maybe you try reading a new genre of book, picking up a hobby that requires focus, or even just doing simple mental math instead of reaching for the calculator. Little moments like these add up. They keep those neurons firing. And they help protect against cognitive decline, which is something none of us want to face as we age. But it's not just stimulation that matters. Rest does too. One thing many people overlook, especially in their later years, is the importance of high-quality sleep. You might be thinking, sleep? I've been doing that my whole life. But here's the thing, just because you sleep doesn't mean you're resting well. And deep, restorative sleep is one of the most underrated secrets to living a longer, healthier life. Have you ever woken up feeling groggy, even after 8 hours in bed? That's your body telling you the quality of your sleep isn't where it should be. As we age, our sleep cycles naturally change. We may wake up more often, sleep more lightly, or find it harder to fall asleep in the first place. But that doesn't mean we're doomed to restless nights. There are things you can do to support better sleep, and better sleep supports everything else: your mood, your memory, your metabolism, and even your immune system. Something as simple as reducing screen time an hour before bed or keeping a consistent sleep schedule, even on weekends, can help your body fall into a healthier rhythm. A warm shower, some calming music, a cup of herbal tea, these aren't indulgences. They're small acts of self-care that send a powerful message to your body: it's safe to rest now. I remember my neighbor Judy, who used to struggle with sleep for years. She'd toss and turn, fall asleep in the chair in the afternoon, and then lie awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling. One day, she decided to take it seriously. She removed the TV from her bedroom. She started going for a walk each evening instead of watching the news. And she made a rule: no caffeine after 1 p.m. It wasn't magic overnight, but within a month, she was sleeping through the night and waking up with enough energy to volunteer at the local library. She told me once, "I didn't realize how exhausted I'd been until I finally felt rested." Sleep is your body's repair system. When you give yourself the space and care to sleep deeply, you are literally healing from the inside out. And that, my friend, is a longevity tool that costs nothing, but gives back more than we can measure. Now, we've talked about movement, nutrition, connection, mental stimulation, and rest, but what ties all of these together is your mindset. Your attitude. The way you talk to yourself when no one else is listening. And that brings me to something I believe might just be the secret glue that holds it all together: purpose. Having a reason to get out of bed in the morning, no matter how small, can add years to your life. And more importantly, it adds life to your years. You don't have to be curing disease or writing a book. Purpose can be as simple as caring for your plants, mentoring a young person, looking forward to your daily coffee on the porch, or checking in on a friend who needs your voice. It's about mattering. About knowing that your presence still holds weight in this world. There's an old man in my town named Sam. He's 89, walks with a cane, and still goes to the community garden every Saturday to water the tomatoes. He doesn't do much heavy lifting anymore, but he always checks on the younger volunteers, shares stories, and offers advice on how to keep the soil healthy. And every week, when someone new joins, they say the same thing: "Sam's the heart of this place." That's purpose. That's impact. And that's the kind of fuel that keeps you going, even when the body wants to slow down. So as you reflect on your own routines, how you move, eat, connect, rest, and think, I encourage you to also ask yourself, what gives my life meaning right now? If the answer isn't clear yet, that's okay. Keep looking. Keep showing up. Sometimes purpose whispers quietly, but if you're listening, it always shows up when you need it most. Let's keep going. Because once you start tuning in, once you begin moving with care, eating to fuel your life, reconnecting with others, challenging your mind, and finally allowing yourself to rest and recharge, you start to notice something subtle but powerful. Life doesn't just feel longer. It feels richer. The days stretch out in the best way. The little moments, the ones that might have passed you by before, start to glow a bit brighter. Now I want to take a moment to talk about something that doesn't get mentioned often in conversations about longevity, but I believe it matters just as much as any vitamin, any step count, or any doctor's advice. It's this: how you treat yourself when no one's watching. Your inner world, your thoughts, your attitude, the way you speak to yourself, has a profound impact on how your body behaves. We've all heard that stress is bad for you. But it's not just about the stress from traffic or bills or politics. It's the daily stress we carry in our heads. The stories we repeat. The regrets we revisit. The doubts that whisper, "It's too late for me." That kind of inner stress can wear you down quietly, like water on stone. But the opposite is also true. Kindness, especially toward yourself, can heal you in ways medicine alone never will. Let me tell you about a woman I once met named Eileen. She was 84 and full of warmth, the kind of person who made you feel like you belonged the moment you met her. When I asked her what her secret was, she smiled and said, "I forgave myself a long time ago." I asked her what she meant, and she told me that in her 50s, she went through a difficult divorce. For years, she blamed herself. She held on to guilt, and it aged her from the inside out. But one morning, she stood in front of the mirror and said out loud, "You've done the best you could. And that's enough." From that day forward, she stopped criticizing herself. She spoke to herself like she'd speak to her best friend. She said it took practice, but the more she did it, the lighter she felt. We don't talk enough about that, how heavy self-blame can be. Or how freeing it is to let it go. Living to 90 isn't just about what you eat or how much you walk. It's about whether you wake up and feel at peace with who you are. That kind of peace sends signals to your entire body that say, you're safe. You're valued. You're worthy of care. So if you've been carrying something, an old mistake, a missed opportunity, words you wish you hadn't said, I want to invite you to gently set it down. Not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more. You are not the worst thing that ever happened to you. You are not the sum of your regrets. You are someone who is still here, still breathing, still capable of joy. And joy matters. That brings us to something I like to call emotional nutrition. Just like your body needs vitamins and minerals, your heart needs joy, laughter, connection, and even stillness. The beauty is, joy doesn't have to be grand. It can be a cup of coffee in your favorite chair. The sound of rain on the roof. The way your pet greets you at the door. A favorite old song on the radio that takes you back. These little doses of joy are what keep the soul young, no matter what your birth certificate says. There was a man I met named Harold. He was 91 and still made time every morning to sit outside and watch the sunrise. He called it his daily miracle. He told me that when the world is quiet and the sun begins to rise, he feels like he gets a fresh start. No matter what happened yesterday, today is new. That's how he stayed young, by letting each morning be a beginning, not a continuation of old worry. Imagine if we all gave ourselves that gift, permission to begin again, every single day. You see, the goal isn't just to make it to 90, or 95, or even 100. The goal is to feel alive while you're here. To make the years count, not just count the years. That's what longevity truly means. It's not about denying aging. It's about aging on your terms, with dignity, vitality, and a quiet kind of joy that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. And yes, there will be hard days. There will be aches and losses and moments of frustration. That's part of life at any age. But the strength you've built, the wisdom you've earned, the resilience you carry, it all adds up to something beautiful, a life still in motion, still unfolding, still full of potential. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay curious. Stay compassionate. Stay open to the idea that the best moments of your life might not be behind you. They might be waiting just ahead, disguised as something small and ordinary. So take a breath. Roll your shoulders back. Lift your chin. And remind yourself that you are not done yet. Not even close. Let's keep this going. Because the most beautiful thing about this journey, this decision to care for yourself a little more each day, is that it builds on itself. One good choice leads to another. One moment of calm creates space for clearer thoughts. One act of kindness, even toward yourself, softens the edges of a hard day. That's how you build longevity, not just through science, but through rhythm. Through choosing, again and again, to show up for your own life. And if you've made it this far into the video, I want to pause and acknowledge you. You're not watching this because you're bored. You're here because something inside you still believes in what's possible. You're here because a part of you is still fighting, not against age, but for life. And that part of you is sacred. It's wise. It deserves to be nourished. Now, I want to touch on something that gets overlooked, but it's woven into every long, meaningful life I've ever studied. It's the idea of contribution. Of giving. Not in a grand, flashy way, but in the quiet, steady way that reminds you, you still matter. It might be easy to feel like the world has passed you by. Maybe your kids are grown. Maybe the job is long behind you. Maybe your days feel slower than they used to be. But that doesn't mean your value has decreased. If anything, the opposite is true. You have experience, patience, and perspective that this world desperately needs, especially now. Contribution doesn't mean you need to volunteer full-time or donate money. It can be as simple as calling a neighbor to check in, helping someone carry their groceries, teaching your grandchild how to make your famous stew, sharing your stories, offering your time. When you give, you feel useful. And when you feel useful, you feel alive. I once met a woman named May. She was 87 and had a small habit that changed everything. Every morning, she'd write one encouraging letter. Sometimes to her old friends. Sometimes to total strangers through a senior outreach program. And sometimes, she said, just to herself. When I asked why, she smiled and said, I want to remind people, and myself, that we're still connected. That simple act of writing, 10, maybe 15 minutes a day, became her lifeline. It gave her mornings meaning. It made her feel anchored in something greater than herself. And that's what we're all searching for, isn't it? A sense of belonging. A reminder that we're still part of the world. That our presence still creates ripples. The science backs it up too. Studies show that people who continue to give, serve, or contribute in any way tend to have lower stress, sharper minds, and longer lives. Why? Because the human spirit is wired for purpose. We need to feel like we're needed. And we are. Even just listening, really listening, to someone else's story can be a gift. Sometimes the most meaningful contribution you can make is your presence. Your warmth. Your attention. And those don't fade with age. In fact, they deepen. That's why part of living a long life, one that you actually enjoy, is learning how to be both a giver and a receiver. Because just as you offer value, you also deserve support. You deserve kindness. You deserve help when you need it. Too many of us grew up believing that asking for help was a sign of weakness. That admitting we were struggling meant we were failing. But that belief is outdated and, frankly, harmful. The truth is, asking for help is one of the most human, courageous things you can do. It's a way of saying, I'm still invested in myself. I'm not done yet. So whether it's help with your health, your emotions, or even your daily routine, reach out. You're not a burden. You're a person who's lived through more than most. You deserve to feel supported. I want you to imagine for a moment what the next 10, 15, or even 20 years could look like if you gave yourself the gift of believing this, that your best days aren't over. That your body, even with its quirks and limitations, is still capable of healing. That your mind, even when it feels foggy, can still grow. That your spirit, even if it's been bruised, can still shine. This isn't about denying reality. This is about choosing to build a better one, with whatever time you have. Whether you're 62 or 87, it's not too late to make that shift. To begin treating your body like it matters. To stop apologizing for slowing down and start celebrating the fact that you're still going. And in that spirit, I want you to do something small for yourself today. Not tomorrow, today. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Just something that says, I'm still in this. Maybe you make a healthy breakfast instead of skipping it. Maybe you stretch your legs instead of sitting through another TV show. Maybe you call someone you love. Or maybe you simply step outside, breathe in the fresh air, and whisper to yourself, I'm still here. Those little acts? That's where transformation begins. That's where longevity is built. Not through huge life overhauls, but through quiet decisions, made over and over, with love. This path you're on, it's not easy. But it's worth it. Every small step you take is a message to your future self, I care about you. I'm working for you. I believe in you. So whether your goal is to dance at your great-grandchild's wedding, travel somewhere you've always dreamed of, or simply keep waking up without pain, know this, the choices you make today are the bridge to that future. Let's keep going.